Thanks, Andy. Afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, members. Can I first of all invite members to nominate a chair for this meeting, please?
Nominate John Martin, please.
Thank you, Andy. John, would you like to assume the role of chair, please?
Yeah, that's okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, members, and welcome to this is the first meeting of the Ad Hoc Waste Sub, which is being live streamed and recorded. The recording will be made available on the council website for public listening. Could I remind members to follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off their video when they are not addressing the meeting. Should you wish to contribute to any item, you should write "speak" in the Teams chat function, and you will be invited to speak in order about new issues. Should your request or issue be raised by a previous speaker, please withdraw your request so that we can deal with the business as efficiently as possible. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call, but there shouldn't be any votes at this committee because it's just really a monitoring committee for the waste rollout. Any decisions, any votes and decisions will be taken at the community's meeting. This is purely a monitoring committee. If any member has to leave the meeting for any reason, can I remind you that to either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time, or could you write "leave" in the Teams chat function and then join? This will allow us to monitor member presence. Could I ask the clerk for the said and apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. We've got 8 members present. I've got one apology from Councillor Wood, not present at the start of the meeting are Councillor Blake and Councillor Scobie.
Jim Dempster, would you want to comment?
Please, John, just in your observations, you're absolutely right. It's a monitoring committee, but I would presume we would still be able to make a recommendation to the committee if we felt that was appropriate. It
will be taken. Any advice will be taken forward. Notes will be taken at this meeting, and it will go forward to any reports coming to the communities.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So, if there is no declaration of interest, could I go? Sorry, could you go to the declarations of interest, please? If we have no declarations of interest, we'll go to number 4 on the agenda, the delegation to Ad Hoc Waste Collection, Treatment and Disposal Subcommittee, reports by the Director of Communities. This report is to provide information on the delegation of this subcommittee, being to monitor the detailed development and implementation of the waste strategy for collection, treatment and disposal arrangements across the region, and to monitor the contribution to the climate change emergency through the approach given the waste hierarchy, or reduce, reuse, recycle. Any member got anything on that? If not, we'll go to the recommendations. Members are asked to note the remit of the Ad Hoc Waste Collection, Treatment and Disposal Subcommittee as detailed at paragraph 3.2. Members agree to that?
Agreed.
That's fine. We'll go on to 5 now. Waste Service. The Waste Service, a general update on the waste matters, including rollout of the new curbside collection service, update on the Dumfries Zero Waste Park, Scottish Government's Recycling Improvement Fund, and the Locker Moss Solar PV Array full business case report by the Head of Roads and Infrastructure. This report provides members with an update of the current work being carried out by the Waste Service. James and the team are happy to take questions on this report. Have you got anything to add to the report, James?
Nothing to add to the report, Chair.
Right. Open to members now. Right, quick. James, I think we will. Jim Dempster, please.
Hey, thanks, John. First of all, I'd like to commend our staff for the work they've done in the Nithsdale waste collection route rollout programme. There have been hiccups as you'd expect, but Janice especially has been particularly efficient and got things sorted and kept the programme on track, which is very helpful because it gives customers confidence. There's a question I've got about the waste recycling centres, and one of them is about the booking system, and I appreciate there's an intention to keep the booking system, but when folk have got a 7-day wait, that will lead, I imagine, to frustration. And I know there's an intention to explore options to accelerate that, especially with the Locher Moss arrangement. But should, now that we're down to level 1, should we know opening the sites more frequently and encouraging a more regular flow of waste rather than have folk waiting for 7 days, because it must be fairly challenging. And the only other question is about the Thornhill waste site, where they're talking about increasing the capacity there for more collection units, but the road network, I would be concerned that wouldn't be fit for purpose for additional vehicular traffic, and it's maybe no James's problem that, but maybe need to speak to colleagues before we carry out that particular piece of work if there's an intention to do that, because I wouldn't want us to be doing something that would impact in an adverse way on another part of our own service. Thanks for that, Chair.
James.
Yeah, through yourself, Chair. Thank you. Councillor Dempster, probably taking the second question first, because it's maybe a bit quicker response. The thought process around extending the likes of Thornhill, HWRC, Gateway Bridge, and the Lockerbie site as well, is simply, it's not really to provide more capacity, as in potentially more vehicles entering the site. It's to provide a greater number of skips and recycling facilities so that we can offer more services there. So as opposed to, not being able to maybe dispose of a certain recycler stream, we will be able to offer more facilities at an individual site. So we wouldn't expect a greater number of vehicles per se going there. What we would allow, more separation of materials, and obviously the better the quality in terms of separation at an HWRC, the simpler it is for us to recycle. So I think that would be the case for Thornhill if we were to do the extension. So yes, I'm certainly aware of the road network around there. I've been to the site a number of times, and we wouldn't want to be encouraging a lot more traffic there. In terms of generally around the booking system, and we are aware that there has been feedback on the booking system, and principally it is around the issues associated with the busier of the sites. So that's particularly the two Dumfries sites, Jockslonan and Locher Moss. There are quite a number of advantages, and these are obviously detailed in the committee report as to why the service has greatly benefited from the use of a booking system, and I would argue the public have benefited as well in terms of the not just a COVID situation, but I think in general sites that are more, particularly the busier ones, are more pleasant to be on at what would normally be the busier times of the day, because we are managing the numbers on site without having to impact upon holding people in a queue outside the site and potentially impacting upon traffic around there. So I think what it really does for us in terms of operationally is allows an easier management of the sites, but it also has identified quite clearly where our demands for recycling services are, and to that end, the service is keen to look particularly at the Locher Moss site and the Jockslonan site as to what additional hours can be provided, what additional capacity can be provided at these two sites. Mindful, of course, that within the next couple of years, we would be looking to have a new site at the adjacent Dumfries Zero Waste Park, which will obviously have significantly greater capacity and, by its very design, will be a faster system to dispose of waste with a split level skips and not having to walk up ramps to dispose of items like wood and garden waste, but instead just tipping it over the edge into a skip at a lower level. So what I think the booking system does for us is to very much identify that we do need more hours at the sites in Dumfries, more capacity at the sites in Dumfries, and that's something that we're keen to explore and have been doing some initial thoughts on that and have shared that with the community's chair and vice chair, and are happy to discuss that more and seek members' views on that before we go to Communities Committee later in this month. Does that kind of open up, does that answer your questions and maybe open up an opportunity for further discussion, Chair?
Yes, that's fine, James. As I say, that was the main problem I was getting back about the Locker Moss site, was closure at 6 p.m. As I say, it was all right. As I say, we said it may extend hours to 8 o'clock, open it earlier at 8 o'clock, but that didn't really help anyone that started their work at 8 o'clock and then they get back to say 5 o'clock. By the time they get something done, it's the site is closed. Like, so I think a later opening time at Locker Moss would certainly be welcome if that could be helped. And let's go on there.
Chair, if I can come back on that a little bit. So I think just for the benefit of members, where we are in terms of the hours of operation for the sites. So if we cast our minds back to the pre-COVID days, and we did the 15 community conversations, and we did a consultation through those community conversations, and then an online consultation with regards to the standardising of hours across the region, and what we saw was a very strong public support for that, and that was reported to committee in early 2020. The feedback from that, and that sees a parity of service across the region. And we'd certainly found with the Locker Moss site open till 10 at night in its previous guise, that the hours, particularly in the winter time, the late hours were very unused, and we needed to look at 2, 4, 5 days a week has proven very positive. So I think we did that process. We got good feedback from members. We got good feedback from the public. Those hours were seen as a way forward. Then the pandemic hit, and then we reopened the facilities. And what we decided in consultation with SLT, with CMT, and the like, was that by opening to the new hours, even though they hadn't been formally agreed with staff, we made a much more simple public message as to when your household waste recycling. So in terms of, the sites are open at these hours. The staff have obviously been operating the sites since the middle of last year at these new hours, and we're still in the process. You'll appreciate that the staff are, they're under different terms and conditions because they're former staff of the Renewy contract. So not that has a major impact upon how we negotiate with staff, but we're still looking to that process. So that's still ongoing in terms of finalising those negotiations. So I would be keen to see that moving forward without major impacts upon extending hours at sites, acknowledging that we're very much seeing at Jockslonan and at Locker Moss a real keenness of the public to recycle. Just adding to that slightly, one of the things, and it's maybe to a certain extent anecdotal evidence, but one of the things is that a number of people I've spoken to about the recycling bins on probably at a personal level as well as a professional level, have identified that they enjoy the new recycling service curbside because they used to collect those materials and take them to the household waste recycling centre. And actually we may find as this service beds in, that there are slightly less bookings for that kind of disposal of cans and plastics and paper and card at the HWRCs. So again, the booking system does allow us to kind of keep an eye on how busy the sites are, and has been useful for that. And Our development work in terms of improving that booking system is something that would give us more opportunity to vary capacity across the sites and potentially increase the number, the number of slots that would be available in any one day. The current system it served the purpose, but it could be improved. So quite happy to sort of bring some more ideas forward to Communities Committee based on feedback, but very much the booking system has allowed us to see where the busier sites are and to try and improve those hours, and we will do that as much as we can.
Thank you, James. Ian Howie.
Thanks, Chair. James, a couple of questions. I must say the booking service is working well in Castle Douglas. It's been fairly well supported. The one issue that I have received complaints about is particularly the elderly who don't have the ability to book through email and requesting the possibility of a booking arrangement via phone, by phoning the council switchboard and making a booking. And the same people are saying, if at all possible, when making such a booking, they can put in a request for assistance if they are unable to do this yourself. You know, Castle Douglas, you've already mentioned trying to do away with walking up and down ramps, which is certainly very awkward for the elderly. And if that can be addressed as soon as possible, that would be appreciated. And I said the other thing, if they can book in by phone and if they can demonstrate there is a need for assistance, that we can look to provide them with that assistance.
Yeah. So through yourself, Chair, thank you, Councillor Howie. Appreciate the feedback on that. I mean, I think I would make the point that you can see in the committee report that, you know, over 200,000 bookings over the last year. We have had some negative feedback, and generally that's been around not being able to get into a site more than disliking it. You can book by phone. My understanding was that there have been, members will be aware, some issues with the contact centre in terms of demand, and that speaking with the head of OD and HR, that has been addressed satisfactorily, and speaking with staff within that service, booking, you know, waiting times on the council's contact centre are substantially shorter now. To book online, you obviously go onto the council's website. To book on the phone, it's simply phoning the council's switchboard number and ask to make a household waste recycling centre booking, and the staff will follow basically the same process. They'll go into the same booking system as you would use online. So if you wish to share that with your constituents, that yes, of course they can book online, just phoning the 030 number. In terms of what was this? Just remind me what your second question was there, Councillor Howie.
James, one was them being able to, if they are in some way unable to getting assistance with heavy items up their arm property.
Yeah, the assistance one is actually it's something I've been discussing with one of my with Dave Cheetham, my manager in that service, just earlier today, in fact, and how quickly we can return to offering that level of assistance that previously the service kind of, I would almost say, prided itself on, and a keenness to assist where possible. And I know from speaking to staff, actually, particularly at Castle Douglas, not that long ago, that they themselves are almost frustrated with having to stand and watch people struggling, but, you know, not being able to assist. And that clearly is a COVID issue, and one that I think we are getting towards the end of. What I've asked Dave to have a look at is through our sort of national contacts with the waste managers across Scotland, is to look to see what other authorities are doing in terms of offering assistance at HWRCs, to see whether there has been a move back from that. You know, we need to be mindful that you know, we need to have a duty of care towards our staff and not asking them to necessarily engage directly with people who are potentially actually have COVID or have COVID symptoms within the house, and you know, we want to avoid that. But as we move to a situation where more people are vaccinated and you know, there's a massive drop in the R number and things like that, then clearly the risks need to be considered. One of the things I've asked also to have a look at is the opportunity that if we do improve our booking system, that at any point that somebody makes a booking, they would be able to indicate within that booking that they would require assistance at their centre in unloading their vehicle, so that, you know, prior to them arriving on the site, that the staff would be able to get a, you know, almost not dissimilar to the assisted pull-out service, so that when, you know, our bin crews are out collecting, they are able to assist people who can't get their bin out. I would like to see something along the same lines with our booking system, and that would be something that would then allow, you know, people to identify that they need assistance without necessarily having to, you know, go up to find a member of staff and such like. So very keen to see that service reinstated, Councillor Howie. So watch this space, and we'll do what we can while still managing the health and safety of our staff.
Thanks. Just the last point about doing away with ramps at some of the satellite sites.
Yeah, I think realistically the likelihood is we won't be doing away with ramps at the likes of Castle Douglas, Dalbeattie, because of just simply because of the nature of the sites. The split level site that we have at Stranraer will be repeated at Dumfries. Where we need to go is to go back to the ability to assist people taking that waste up the ramp, so that, you know, the fact that they're struggling, they can get it into their car okay, but disposing of it up the ramp is the challenge. That's where we need to, as a service, to offer that as an assistance service. So I think when we can get back to that, we'll be in a, you know, better position in terms of that.
Thanks, James.
Okay, Ian. Dougie Campbell.
Thanks, Chair, and hi, James. James, really pleased to see the progress that's been made with the business case for Locher Moss with the PV solar panels. I think that it kind of makes a lot of sense that a recycling centre is powered to a lesser or greater degree by renewable energy sources. And it got me thinking about the section in your report about the Recycling Improvement Fund. Was any consideration given in terms of the expressions of interest to potentially fitting PV panels at our household recycling centres? Again, I think it would send a really strong message, and it kind of makes sense. And if we can't go down that route through the improvement fund, if that fund is now closed, I certainly think that the investment in solar panels would be very much a sort of spend to save exercise, similar to the LED streetlights. Just be interested in your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell, and through yourself, Chair. So that the discussions with regards to solar arrays across landfill sites was something just started a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago with, and to be fair, it was something that the service had considered a number of years ago, but as technology's improved in terms of capacities you can get off these solar farms, then there's obviously been more of an opportunity to look at it business case wise. What we did do initially with Scottish Power was we looked at the 5 landfill sites that the council has, and of those 5 sites, realistically the only one where there was potentially a business case was the Locher Moss site, possibly the Annan landfill site because of its proximity to the Chapel Cross site in terms of connection to the national grid, but the size of the Dumfries site was its big advantage. The other ones are a bit more remote, and therefore connections to the grid are more of the issue. And I suspect that would probably be part of the issue associated with solar on our household waste recycling centres, because as an energy user, our household waste recycling centres are quite small. And they're generally reasonably remote, so connection again to the grid and for the amount of solar we could put on there would probably not be beneficial. But that's not to say there isn't opportunities to look at that. In terms of the bid process into the Recycling Improvement Fund, that's a 5-year programme. we, as a service, put in expressions of interest for the previous for the first sort of bid process, and they were in the middle of May. That was a non-committal sort of arrangement, but better to get something in there, and we've had some positive feedback on that. And the next stage will be pulling together full bids for the things that are identified within the report, and going back to communities committee on that for approval to sort of progress those, and obviously we're going to communities at the end of this month, and we would look to bring back some more information in that regard. The recycling improvement fund is still open, and there'll be further rounds of expressions of interest for us to consider. And if I remember rightly, we did ask about whether funding would be available for things like the solar farm. I'll chase that up again. I mean, I think there are potentially other funding streams for solar, potentially at the Loch Moss. So Salix funding, grant or loan funding and the like is potentially something that the business case will form. So we would look to take that forward through that process. But I feel that the likelihood of solar panels on smaller sites is economies of scales wouldn't benefit from that. But we'll certainly be keeping members of this subcommittee and communities committee up to date on progress on the business case. I'm very keen on under promising and over delivering, so I'm not going to tell you we're going to build a solar farm on the Loch Moss site. We'll develop the business case and see where it goes.
Thanks, James. Is that okay, Dougie?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, John.
Could I have Councillor Young, John Young, please?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, John. And good afternoon, James. It's probably not that important a point, but when you try to book a site, when you go online, you get the council's homepage, and then you look at the waste and recycling. There should be a bullet point there that takes you immediately to book a slot. I feel you have to work quite hard to actually get to where you book a slot, and your journey through the clicks should be much simpler. I know under the waste and recycling, the relevant bullet point is recycling centres, but there should be under that another bullet point that takes you straight to the selection of which recycling centre in which you wish to book a slot. Anyway, James, that's my small but trivial point.
Chair, through yourself, not a trivial point at all. I think that's I think that making websites simpler for people to use, and you're right, not having to go through a number of clicks to get there would be something that we're certainly aware from hits on the council's website that the waste and recycling page has got the second biggest hits for the council's web pages over this last few months. I don't have the figures to hand, but it was tens of thousands of hits over the because of obviously the new curbside collection service and the information that's provided there. But looking at the HWRC bookings, if that comes as one of our bigger sub hits within that page, having a quick link to there. So I can take that back to our comms colleagues and our web team, and we'll have a chat. We have a weekly meeting. The team have a weekly meeting, which involves comms colleagues as well, and it's this kind of feedback that's really useful. So not a trivial point at all, Councillor Young.
Thanks. Thank you, John. Is there anyone else want to speak? No, doesn't look like there is. Could we go to the recommendations then, please? We're asked to 1. Scrutinise the progress and future plans of the waste strategy development and implementation, including 1.1, noting the successful rollout of the new curbside collection service for dry recyclates, including the strong communications message, section 3.2. 1.2, noticing the advantages gained in use of the booking system for the household waste recycling centres and the services proposals to improve the system. 1.3, noting the progress on the development of the full business case for a for a solar photovoltaic array on the Lockermost landfill site. 1.4, noting that expressions of interest have been submitted to the Scottish Government's Recycling Improvement Fund. 1.5, noting the potential for the involvement of providing bulking facilities for the Scottish Government's deposit return scheme. And 1.6, noting the revived timescales for the Zero Waste Park project. Is everyone happy that that's been scrutinised enough? No answer. Everybody quite happy with the recommendations?
Happy with the recommendations, Chair.
Okay, yeah.
That's fine. As I have no other further business, I would like to thank everyone for their contributions at this meeting today. Right, thanks very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank
Chair.
Thank you, John.
Right,
Cheers, folk. Ta-ra.
bother.